Okay. What happened? Okay. If a woman said, I was married, but I am divorced, she is believed. For the one that created the liability is the one that undid it. If, however, there are witnesses that she was married and she says, I am divorced, she is not believed. If she said, I was captured, but I am not, but I am defiled, I was captured, but I am undefiled, she is believed. For the one that created the liability is the one that undid it. If there are witnesses that she was captured, however, and she says, I am undefiled, she is not believed. But if after if she is married, witnesses came and she did not leave. If two women were captured, and now this one says, I was captured, but I am undefiled, and this one says, I was captured, but I am undefiled, they are not believed. If they testify for one another, however, they are believed. So in the case of two men, in which this one says, I am a Kohen, and this one says, I am a Kohen, they are not believed. If they testify for one another, however, they are believed.
Okay. Okay, fine. So Mishna Ches.
Right?
Yeah, Rabbi Yehuda comes actually to disagree with the previous Mishnah. He says, "Ein malim lekahuna al pi eid echad." He says, no, you can't make somebody into Kohen just because one other person says that he's a Kohen. So that's not good enough. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Emasai. So he says on Rabbi Yehuda, when is this so? That's only in a case when you have people arguing, when people are making rumors about the fact that, is he really a Kohen or not? Okay. But in a situation where there's nobody disputing the fact, then they allow you to then they allow somebody to become to be elevated to kuna just from one witness. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabbi Shimon ben Asagan. So he says, now he comes and says, seemingly he comes and says the same thing as we were saying before. So the Gemara explains that the argument is as follows. It says that even in a place where there are people who are arguing, like the following case, where you've got a Kohen who's muhzak as a Kohen, okay, but now his son, there's the rumor starts that his son was actually the son of a divorcee, okay, and he was that he shouldn't be a Kohen. So so one witness comes and says that he's a kosher Kohen, and that's fine. So the aid is mevatel a rumor. Okay. Then two witnesses come and say, no, I'm sorry, we know that his mother is a divorcee. Nifsal. So now it becomes passed as a Kohen. And now another witness comes, and says that he is also a kosher Kohen. Okay. In such a case, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says that you can return him to the Kohana for using just this one witness, and that is the last witness, and because his testimony joins with the aidus of the first one. Okay. And now you see that you've got two people who are testifying that he's a ben Grusha, and two testifying that he's a kosher Kohen, and therefore he retains his chazaka as a Kohen kosher. Rabbi Elazar says no. The edus does not mitzaref. You can't return into the Kohana unless he's got two Adam who come together to say that he's a Kohen kosher. Yeah. Mishna Tes, Ha'isha shenech b'shah b'dei goyim. So if a woman is captured by non-Jews, now it depends what the reason is why she has why they captured her. So they put her in prison. Okay, what is it? Now, if it's for money, if it's a debtor's prison, now that they wanted to get her. They wanted to get money out of her husband, so they took the woman and put her into debtor's prison. And now the husband pays up. Now he wants to know, the husband's a Kohen, he wants to know, is his wife allowed to come back to him because was she raped in jail? So the Mishnah tells us muteris debala, that she's mutar, because why? For debtors prison, the creditors don't want to bring themselves into legal trouble if it comes out that they raped the woman while she was in debtors prison, and then they're going to lose their money, because that's even
Right.
among okay. This is, of course, so it actually points out in Kahati that this is talking about, the Gemara says this is talking about where Jews are predominant. But if the non-Jews are predominant, then even for money, then she becomes also to her husband, because the goyim can kind of get away with whatever they feel like. This is talking about in a society where they can get away with whatever they want against Jews. Okay, but Ali day nefashos. But what happens if a woman was put in prison and for whatever reason they've made up their minds that they're going to execute her? Then there's actually a problem with her being asatubala, either because it's we're still talking about the case of the Kohen, where they say, oh, what the heck, she's got to be executed anyway. There's no reason to hold back. Or alternatively, there's another opinion that said this is even talking about an Ashes Yisrael. Why? Because there's a chashash that she offered herself to her captors in order to get herself freed, and if she did so willingly, then she becomes us to her husband as well. Now, what happens if you're in a Jewish city where the non-Jews have overrun the city? Then every wife of a Kohen is disqualified from her husband, because they're presumed to be raping and pillaging and doing what they do. However, they just need any witness to release them from the presumption of having been defiled. Okay, afilu eved, afilu shifta, whether it's a slave or a slave girl, then they believe and they can return to their husbands. However, a person may not testify when it's about his own wife. And as the case is brought here of Rabbi Zachariah ben Akatzav, he was a Kohen. He swears an oath by the Holy Temple. Lo zaza yada mitoch yadi misha shenechnusu goyim liYerushalayim v'ad sheyatzu. Says she was with me the entire time while the goyim were overrunning Jerusalem. Amrulu, sorry, ein adam made al yedei atzmo. You can't testify for yourself.
So she's prohibited.
So she would be prohibited to him, which is a sad thing, but that was the halacha.
This is very interesting, because as we're going through this, I'm thinking about what's going on in the Ukraine with the Russian soldiers. Somebody could be married to a Kohen or be a whatever, and this is the situation right here. That's what I was thinking. Unfortunately.
Yes, indeed. Okay. So the following cases, people are believed in testimony of what they saw when they were below bar mitzvah. Okay. Neman Adam Lomar Zeh Kesav Yado Shel Abba. Says I recognize the writing of my father, even though my father may have died. The father may have died, but while he was under bar mitzvah, nonetheless he recognizes his father's writing, and that is a valid testimony for him to do once he's an adult. Zeh Kesav Yado Shel Rebbe, or for the same thing for his Rebbe. Zeh Kesav Yado Shel Achi, or my brother. Zachor Hayisi v'Plonis Sheyatz Sabinoma Barosh Parah. I remember when what's her name got married, that she was married in the custom of virgins, and therefore in a dispute between her and her husband as to whether she was married as a virgin or or not, and whether it's 200 zuz or 100 zuz in the kesubah. His testimony is believed, even though he only saw it when he was a kid. Or he can say, I remember in school, Yossi used to go out and go out to the mikvah so that he could eat truma. Okay, V'shehaya cholek imanu ala gorin. Or if he's saying on himself, he says, I know I'm a Kohen, and I remember that Yossi used to eat truma with us at the gorin. Okay, this could also be, it could mean that he's an Eved Kohen, but that's less likely. You'd probably know if it's more likely that he would never. We're talking about Yichus, and you want to say he's a Kohen. Anyway, the Makom hazeh beis hapras. And he can say, I remember that the Beis HaPras in this area over here extended up until such and such a point. Ad kan hayunu ba'in b'Shabbos, and this over here is where we used to walk up to on Shabbos, which means that we remember that this is where the Tchum Shabbos of the city is. But he can't say, oh, I remember there was a Yossi used to have a through pass. He used to have rite of passage through Reuven's field, or Mamad or Misped Haya Leploni b'makom hazeh, or that there was a Mamad we saw in Megillah. There were stations where you used to stop and give and make a spade for the mace. Okay, so why is he not believed in these particular things? He's not believed on these things that he saw when he was a kid, because this is Devarim Sheba Mammon, and you need a proper aidus of two witnesses, because who saw the whole thing when they were adults. You don't rely on the word of a child to take away a certain property rights from a person. Although that said, it's interesting that when they're giving testimony about the woman who was married as a virgin, because that's also going to be a dinei mammonus.
Right.
They're saying to her, you can get 200 zuz instead of 100 zuz. Okay, now this, even though normally, so Kahati points out that even though in this case you normally you can't take away money from somebody without proper aidus. Nonetheless, Chachamim gave them a special credibility. Why? Because in any case, most women get married as virgins. So all that we're doing over here is showing up something that we suspected anyway.
Okay.
So it's not really taking away money from anyone. We generally would have presumed anyway that the wife was married as a virgin, and they're just coming in and putting the final seal on it. Okay. Yevamos.
Okay. It's interesting that you just made that comment at the end that most women are married as virgins, because when we were talking the other day about this whole thing about the Kohanim and all this, you said, well, then it was different, because today it's a whole different.
We're talking about in secular society.
Yeah.
We're talking in religious society here, yeah. Okay. Yevamos Tes Zion.
Tes Zion Aleph. A woman whose husband and co-wife went overseas, and they came and said to her, your husband died. She may not marry or be taken in Yibum until she knows if her co-wife is pregnant. If she had a mother-in-law, she need not concern herself. However, if she departed while pregnant, she must concern herself, and Rabbi Yeshua says she need not consider it. If there were two sister-in-laws and each one stated, my husband died, each one is prohibited to marry because of the other's husband. If one had witnesses but the other did not, the one with witnesses is prohibited to marry, whereas the one without witnesses is permitted. If one had children but the other did not, the one with children is permitted to marry, whereas the one without children is prohibited. And if they were taken in Yibum and the Yevamos then died, they are prohibiting from remarrying. If Elazar says, since were permitted to the Yevamos, they are permitted to all men. One may only testify that a man is dead if he saw the face and nose, even though there are identifying marks on the body or clothing. One may only testify that a man is dead if he actually saw him dead, but not if he saw him cut, hanging, or being devoured by a wild beast. One may only testify if he saw the body within 3 days. If Yehuda ben Bava says not all men or areas or times are alike. uh, if one performed Kalitza with his Yevama, and then his brother married her sister and died, she requires Kalitza, but may not be taken in Yibum. Similarly, if someone divorced his wife and then his brother married her sister and died, she is released from Kalitza and Yibum. If a woman was awaiting her Yavam and his brother then betrothed her sister, it was said in the name of Rabbi Yehuda ben Becerra, we tell him, wait until your oldest brother acts. If his brother performed Kalitza with her or married her, he may consummate the marriage with his wife. If the Yevama died, he may consummate the marriage with his wife. If the Yavam died, however, he must discharge his wife with a bill of divorce and his brother's wife with Kalitza. Yevama may not perform Kalitza or be taken in Yibum until 3 months have passed. Similarly, all other women may not be betrothed or married until 3 months have passed. Be they virgins or non-virgins, divorced or widowed, married or betrothed. Rabbi Yehuda says those who are married may be betrothed, and those who are betrothed may be married, except for those who are betrothed in Judea, because since he is familiar with her. Rabbi Yossi says all women may be betrothed, except for the women because of her mourning.
So once again, there's that reference to the practice in Yehuda of where the betrothed women are often allowed to be alone with their husbands.
Right.
So
Aleph Vav.
Aleph Vav, yeah.
Okay. We may cover the sukkah with boards. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Meir forbids it. If one placed atop it a board that is 4 handbreadths wide, the sukkah is valid, except that one may not sleep under the board. A roof that has no plaster on it, Rabbi Yehuda says, Beis Shammai says one loosens them and then removes every other board. But Beis Hillel says he either loosens them or removes every other one. Rabbi Meir says he removes every other one, but one does not loosen them. If one roofs his sukkah with spits or bed boards, the space between them is equal to themselves, it's valid. And if one hollowed out a haystack to make a sukkah inside it, it is not a sukkah. Okay. Trumos.
Valid.
Okay, hey Dalit. If a saw of unclean truma fell into 100 of saw of clean truma, Beit Shammai forbids, but Beis Hillel permits. Said Beis Hillel to Beit Shammai, since the clean is forbidden to non-priests and the unclean is forbidden to priests, then just as the clean is canceled, so too should the unclean be canceled. Beit Shammai said to them, no, if chulin, which is treated leniently and is permitted to non-priests, annuls the clean, should truma, which is treated stringently and is forbidden to non-priests, annul the unclean. After they admitted, Reb Eliezer says, truma must be taken and burnt, and the sages said it is lost because of its small quantity. If a saw of truma fell into 100 and he lifted it out and it fell into another place, Reb Eliezer says it renders meduma, as does definite truma. But the good comments say it renders meduma only proportionately. If a saw of truma fell into less than 100, rendering it meduma, and some of the meduma fell into another place, Reb Eliezer says it renders meduma as the definite truma. But the good comments say the meduma renders meduma only proportionately, and the leaven renders leaven only proportionately, and drawn water renders the mikvah unfit proportionately. Okay.
Zayin base.
All the sloping sections of a tent are considered part of the tent. In the case of a tent whose walls slope downward and at its upper end it is only as wide as a finger, if there is tuma inside the tent, the utensils under the slope become tummy. And if there is tuma under the slope, utensils inside the tent become tummy. If there is tuma inside a tent, someone who touches the inside of the tent becomes tummy for 7 days, whereas someone who touches the outside of the tent becomes tummy only until evening. If there is tuma on the outside of the tent, someone who touches the outside of the tent becomes tummy for 7 days, whereas someone who touches the inside of the tent becomes tummy only until evening. If there is a half olive-sized piece on the inside and a half olive-sized piece on the outside, someone who touches either side becomes tamei only until evening. If part of the tent is flat on the ground, whether the tumor is beneath the tent or above it, the tumor penetrates upward and downward. And if a tent is pitched in the upper story with excess cloth lying flat over the opening between the house and the upper story, Yevamos says it contains tumor. Reb Shimon says it does not contain tumor unless it is stretched out the way a tent usually is. If there is a corpse in a house with numerous entrances, all utensils in the entrances become tamei. If one door is open, it is tamei, and the other is tahor. If it was decided to remove the corpse through one of the doors or through a window, 4-hammered square, tumor is curtailed from all the other entrances. Beit Shammai says it must be decided before the person dies, and Beis Hillel says it can be decided even after the person dies. If an entrance is sealed and he decided to open it, Beit Shammai says when he opens 4-hammered, he will curtail tumor from the other entrances. But Beis Hillel says as soon as he begins to open it. If they both agree that a doorway created for the first time, but they both agree that a doorway created for the first time must be opened only 4 handbreadths. A woman was having a difficult labor and she was moved from one house to another. The first house is tamei because of doubt, and the second house is certainly tamei. Rabbi Yehuda said, when does this apply? In a situation in which she walked with assistance, but if she was able to walk without assistance, the first room is tahor because once the womb is open, it's impossible to walk. A stillborn child does not open the womb unless his head is round like the size of a whorl.
And finally, ideas.
Okay. The bottom of the barrel of olives pickling in salt, Beis Shammai said that it does not have to perforate it, but Beis Hillel says that it does have to perforate it. However, Beis Hillel agreed that if one did perforate the barrel, but sediment from the olives blocked it, it's tahor. If one anointed himself with tahor oil and then became tamei and then went down into the mikveh and immersed himself, Beis Shammai says even if he is still dripping with oil after the immersion, he is tahor. Beis Hillel says enough oil on the person to anoint a small limb. But if the oil was tamei from the start, Beis Shammai says enough oil on the person to anoint a small limb. And Beis Hillel says liquid that moistens. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Beis Hillel, it makes moist enough to moisten something else. A woman can be betrothed with dinner or with something worth a dinner, according to the view of Beis Shammai. But Beis Hillel says for the person or a pruta or something worth a pruta. And how much is a pruta worth? 1/8 of an Italian isar. Beis Shammai says one may divorce his wife by giving her an old get, but Beis Hillel prohibits this. What is an old get? Anytime he secludes himself with her after he wrote the get for her. One who divorces his wife and then lodges with him in an inn, Beis Shammai says she does not need a second get from him. But Beis Hillel says she does need a second get from him. And when she was divorced from the Nisuin, but if she was divorced from Erisin, they agree that she does not need a second get from him because he does not feel at ease with her. Beis Shammai persists the co-wives of an erva to the brothers of the deceased, but Beis Hillel forbids them. If they perform chalitza, Beis Shammai disqualifies them from the kahuna, and Beis Hillel deemed them qualified. If they were taken in yibum, Beis Shammai deemed them qualified, Beis Hillel disqualifies them. And even though these disqualified and these deemed qualified, Beis Shammai does not refrain from marrying women of Beis Hillel, nor did Beis Hillel refrain from marrying women of Beis Shammai. And despite all the tahor and tamei things that these deemed tahor and these deemed tamei, they did not refrain from preparing tahor foods on the utensils of these.
So we saw this Mishna recently in Yevamos.
Right.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Okay.
Okay, have yourself a great day. Today's a running day. It's cool.
Huh?